grab your coffee, your breakfast, and your Bible and join us at East End University. Sunday school classes are in session each Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. on Zoom. Please visit myfbcee.org for the Zoom link. The History and Hope Ministry, in conjunction with the Hampton Roads branch of Asala, presents a virtual Black History presentation. This historic event will be held on Zoom on Wednesday, February 24th at 7 p.m. The special guest presenter will be Chadra Pittman, founder and executive director of Sankofa Projects. Please see the flyer posted on our social media pages for the Zoom information.
Hello and welcome to the Lighthouse. We're so excited that you're worshiping with us today. Be sure to like and share this video and let everyone know that we are live.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Lighthouse, my brother and my sister. I'm so glad that we're all able to come together this morning and worship together. If this is your first time worshiping with us, welcome to the Lighthouse. I want you to look in the pinned comment or in the comment section and click that connect card link. Fill out that information card so that you can stay connected with us and that we can stay connected with you. And for everyone who's watching me right now, if at any time during this broadcast you want to give, go to our website, myfbcee.org, and click on e-giving. Our Cash App is on the screen. Go on Givelify and search First Baptist Church East End. Go on PayPal, search First Baptist Church East End, and you can give whatever the Lord put on your heart to give. Good morning, my brothers and my sisters. It is Black History Month, and today is the day that I want all of us to gather around as a family and lift up by way of song our Negro national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Let's lift that together right now.
Out from the
the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy head, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Amen. We thank God and we celebrate what God has done in our lives as a people. We celebrate God for our heritage and our legacy. And we know that, as my shirt says, we are black every month. Every day we celebrate who we are as a people. Now, Lord, it is time for your word, and I pray that your word would do what you sent for it to do, because your word says that it will not return to you void, but that it will accomplish that which you have sent. So speak, Lord. Your people are hearing. Your people are listening. Your people are looking for ways to apply your word to our lives. We thank you for your word that gives life. We thank you for your healing power. We thank you for your delivering power that comes by way of your word. Speak through your servant now, in Jesus' name. Amen. Brothers and sisters, the word of the Lord comes to us this morning from the first chapter of the book of Exodus. The first chapter of the book of Exodus, I will read from the New Living Translation. Exodus chapter 1. I'm going to read verses 8 through 14 from the New Living Translation. Here's what the word of the Lord says. Eventually, a new king came to power in Egypt, who knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done. He said to his people, "Look, the people of Israel now outnumber us and are stronger than we are. We must make a plan to keep them from growing even more. If we don't, and if war breaks out, they will join our enemies and fight against us. Then they will escape from the country." So the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. They forced them to build the cities of Pithom and Ramses as supply centers for the king. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread, and the more alarmed the Egyptians became. So the Egyptians worked the people of Israel without mercy. They made their lives bitter, forcing them to mix mortar and make bricks and do all the work in the fields. They were ruthless in all their demands. Verse 12, but the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread, and the more alarmed the Egyptians became. I want to speak to you this morning from the thought, keep on building. Type it on the screen. Tell your virtual neighbor, keep on building. Keep on building. The text tells us that 11 of Jacob's sons and all of their households came to Egypt, all with the exception of Joseph, who was already there. Joseph dies, all of his brothers die, and his entire generation dies. The text says that the descendants of Joseph and his brothers had children and grandchildren, and they had multiplied so greatly that they became extremely powerful and filled the land. A new king arrives on the scene who knew nothing about Joseph, but found himself both amazed and afraid of the number of Israelites in Egypt. As I read about this king who discovered the number of Israelites in Egypt, I was reminded of somebody that we consider to be an American hero who also made a discovery. Christopher Columbus. They taught us in school that in 1492, Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain in search of gold and other resources, but he ended up discovering America. That's the lie they told us in school, or they taught us rather in school. I find it interesting that they taught us that he discovered America, but how can you discover something that someone else already founded? That's like me going around the corner to the building that housed Huntington High School and saying, I think this would be a nice building for a school. When he got here, he found Native Americans, keyword native, who were already living here and already thriving. He was supposed to be heading to Asia, but he ended up in America because he miscalculated the route. So the truth is, he didn't discover America, but he, like the king in our text, captured the Native Americans, enslaved them, subjected them to extreme violence and brutality. And here we done gave the man a federal holiday in October for doing absolutely nothing. They may not tell you that in grade school, but go to a HBCU like Norfolk State, Hampton, Virginia Union, and they'll tell you. So here's this king telling these people, or telling his people rather, that all of these Israelites are more numerous than us and more powerful than us. We need to get them under our control, or else they are going to keep increasing, turn against us when war comes, and escape the land. And sometimes when people see your potential, when people see how powerful you are, when people see that you have the capacity and the propensity to be great, it's not enough for them to try to destroy you by themselves, but they have to get other people on their side to try to help them take you down. And that's why you shouldn't dislike somebody just because someone else dislikes them. You ought not base your opinion of somebody off other people's opinion of the person. Be an individual. Stand on your own 2 feet. Be a leader in this regard, not a follower. You ought to form your own opinion of people, because sometimes God will use a person that nobody likes to bless you. And let me throw this in for free. We have to be careful, you and I, that we aren't the person that nobody likes and everyone has a negative opinion on. The king said to his homies, listen, we got to do something about this. So they got taskmasters to oppress them with forced labor. They did this because the king thought that if war came, the Israelites would join the enemy and fight against the king. So instead of partnering with them, instead of combining resources, the king and the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. So the question arises, Reverend Jones, how can we keep on building? They've enslaved us by getting us hooked on medicines produced by the industry of big pharma. How can we keep on building? Our black-owned businesses are being slighted in favor of big brand name stores. How can we keep on building? Our schools don't get the resources and the funding that predominantly white institutions get. How can we keep on building? First, the text teaches us to build with perseverance. Build with perseverance. The text tells us in verse 11 that the Israelites were enslaved and forced into labor, but while enslaved and under forced labor, they built Pithom and Ramses, cities that could store treasure and riches. They built these cities while they were enslaved. They built these cities while they were oppressed. They built these cities while they were mistreated. They kept on building while they were under attack. They kept on building even when they were punished and hadn't done anything wrong. They built one city and kept on building. They built another city and kept on building, and they persevered through it all, because that's what it takes to build. If you're going to build, you have to learn how to persevere. You have to learn how to get through some stuff, and you have to learn how to get over some stuff. Author James Baldwin says, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. If we don't embrace perseverance, then we will not be able to face an issue in order to change it. And I've got news for you this morning. People are going to say things to you that you are not going to like, and they will never apologize to you for what they said. But if you're going to keep on building, you have to get over it. There are some people that you're going to trust and they're going to let you down. But if you're going to keep on building, you have to get over it. There are going to be times in your life where you feel like giving up, you feel like quitting, and you're not going to be able to see how you're going to make it. But if you're going to keep on building, you have to persevere through it. God did not design your life to be easy. God did not design your life for you to be happy every day. God did not write out the details of your life and exclude you from having to go through anything. Because if you never go through anything, how will you know what it means to come out? Andre Crouch said, if I never had a problem, how would I know that God could solve them? That's why it bothers me. It bothers me. It bothers me to hear people give testimony about what God has done. And the only thing I hear is, God woke me up this morning and started me on my way. You mean to tell me that's all you got? Yeah, that's real cute, but ain't nobody trying to hear that redundant testimony. Let us hear your real testimony that you don't want nobody to know about. Tell us how you were addicted to crack or heroin, but God took the taste of it away from you. Tell us about the times you were so drunk you don't remember how you made it home. Tell us how you maxed out all of your credit cards, spending your money on nothing, and your credit score right now still isn't where it should be. Your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters need to know how far down the Lord had to dig to bring your jacked up self out of your jacked upness. They need to know how stuck you were in your addictions and your guilty pleasures that it almost caused your marriage to fall apart. They need to know how much your procrastination as a young person almost caused you to drop out of school and be an embarrassment to your parents. If you know what it means to persevere, give us the details of your deliverance. Don't tell me God is a deliverer and you ain't never been delivered from nothing. Don't tell me God is a keeper and you ain't never been kept from nothing. Don't tell me God is a healer and the only sickness you had is a little cold. But if you gonna testify the truth so that somebody who hears your testimony, who's stuck in what you got out of, will be able to know that the delivering power of God will give you what you need to persevere through pain and struggle. I said the delivering power of God will cancel your addiction. Oh, I know some of us done got cute now with your little degree. You think you're all that, but tell us how you used to have to put on more than one pair of socks to cover up the hole in the bottom of your shoe. Yeah, you may be eating steak and shrimp for dinner now, but tell us how your mama fed the whole house with a can of beans and a piece of fatback. Tell us what perseverance is all about. And I don't know about you this morning, my brothers and sisters, but I'm not ashamed of where the Lord has brought me from. And I want to know, is there anybody who can wave your hand and say, I'm not ashamed of my story? Now, I can't tell you everything because you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But what I will tell you is, if it had not been, Lord have mercy, for the Lord on my side, I don't know where I would be. What I can tell you is that if God delivered me, if God fixed my broken pieces, then God can and God will do the same thing for you. What I can tell you is that what I've been through taught me how to wait on God. It taught me how to trust in God. It taught me how to lean on God. And now I can look back on my story and tell you that God taught me how to persevere and keep on building. Build with perseverance. But here's another lesson that the text teaches us. Build in spite of suffering. Build in spite of suffering. Verse 12 contains a word that illuminates the second point. Verse 12 says, but the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. The more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. 3 times the charm. The more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. It did not get any easier for them, but they kept on multiplying and spreading. They stayed in bondage, but they kept on multiplying and spreading. In other words, they kept on building in spite of the suffering they had to endure. You may have been fired from your job, but keep on building. As a matter of fact, build something on the side so that when the next job comes, you'll have more than one stream of income. You may have had a baby out of wedlock. Love that baby, raise that baby, teach that baby, surround that baby with a nurturing village, and build a life for that baby to succeed in once he or she grows into an adult, and ignore everybody who criticizes you for not being married. The city may have come and put a boot on your wheel. Then the bank may have had the nerve to repo your car, get you some bus fare, catch an Uber or a Lyft, take your pride out of the equation and ask for a ride. Offer the person who gives you the ride some gas money. Shut down your spending habits until you're able to get that car straight. I remember a few years ago, I walked out of my job, went to go get in my car, and saw a boot on my wheel. I had to pay $400 to the city for my property taxes that were late, and then another $80 to get the boot off the wheel. But I made sure I got to work, and I made sure that I got my car straight, and I just had to eat cereal for dinner the rest of the week. Building is not hindered by your suffering. This story ought to sound familiar to you because we as a people have had to suffer, but we kept on building. They put us in slavery, treated us like animals. Matter of fact, they treated animals better than they treated us, whipped us, put insects in our ears to torture us, used our bodies as science projects, doing medical experiments on us like lab rats, strapped us to the bellies of camels and gave the camel water so that the belly would expand and drag us on the ground. Then they segregated us and made us drink from colored water fountains, and they wouldn't serve us in certain restaurants. They made us come in the back and sit in the back. Then they didn't want us to vote, so we had to march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama, only to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday and be met with police officers and other young white men who beat our marchers with nightsticks and let off tear gas in their faces. Then they bombed our churches and bombed our houses and burned crosses in our yards and introduced a war on drugs, which was really a war on black people in the inner city. They kicked down our doors and put us in prison for using drugs, but they did not take time to go find out where the drugs came from and go knock their door down. Then President Clinton gave us the 3 strikes law, which said that if you have been convicted of 2 or more violent crimes, then you're automatically sentenced to life in prison. That law, which I believe is thrown out now, but even back then, there are men in prison right now, men and women who are still suffering from being incarcerated because of that law. That law contributed to the mass incarceration of black people, many of whom are innocent and have been in prison for 10 or more years because somebody lied on them or they fit a certain description. Now that all of that has come to pass, they're shooting us and killing us while we're unarmed and not having to face any real punishment other than administrative leave. But I came to tell you today, in the words of Maya Angelou, you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. I don't care how much suffering you have to endure, keep on building, because the Bible declares, if God be for us, who can be against us? I said, if God be for you, who can be against you? Hatred can't be against you. Racism can't be against you. Discrimination can't be against you. Biases can't be against you. Injustice can't be against you. If God is for you, if God has your back, nothing can stop you from building. I don't care how many times you have to face suffering. The builder inside of you can't be hindered. The builder inside of you can't be diminished. The builder inside of you can't be erased. The builder inside of you can't be plucked out, because God put it in your ancestors that built the pyramids. God put it in your ancestors that built Washington, D.C. God put it in your ancestors that gave birth to the children that would give birth to the children who became adults and gave birth to you. And if God put it in there, then nothing and no one can do anything to get rid of it. Build with perseverance. Build in spite of suffering. And finally, build by faith. I want you to just write that one word on the screen. Faith, 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 faith. Build by faith. It's easy to read this story and become discouraged, because when you stop at verse 14, it seems as if there is no hope, because it says they made their lives bitter with hard service. And the Egyptians were ruthless to the point of being illegal in what they did to the Israelites. But in order to understand how to build by faith, ladies and gentlemen, you can't stop reading at verse 14. There are a lot of people in our lives who see us now in the verse 14 of our lives, still suffering, still enduring, still going through what we're going through. But it's up to you and I to let people know that where you see me now is not where I will always be. The little money I have now is not the money I'm always going to have. The trouble I'm facing now won't last always, because if you keep on reading, you'll discover that the king ran into some women called midwives, and he told them to kill every boy that is born to an Israelite woman. But because the midwives feared God, a result of having faith in God, they did not do what the king asked them to do. And the text says that God rewarded the midwives, and the Israelites continued to multiply and became more and more powerful. Every time a black child graduates, we multiply. Every time a black person gets a seat on a board or a council, we multiply. Every time a black person becomes the CEO of a company that was previously run by a non-black person, we multiply. But it doesn't stop there. If you keep on reading, the next chapter says that a man named Moses is born into slavery like many of our ancestors, flees from Egypt, gets married, finds himself on a mountain. And that's when God shows up, sets a bush on fire, speaks to Moses from the burning bush, and tells Moses, I've seen my people suffering. I've heard their cries, and now I've come down to bring them out of that land into a land flowing with milk and honey. And I'm sending you, Moses, to Pharaoh the king to bring my people out of bondage. And then Moses says, well, God, when I get down there, somebody is going to want to know who in the world sent me down here to tell them what you said. And God said, you tell them, I am that I am is the one who sent you. Moses had enough faith to go and do what God said. But when he got to Egypt, he told the people what God said. But because they were still enslaved and their spirits were still broken, they paid Moses no mind. Because sometimes when you can't see how God is going to do a thing, you don't believe that God will do it. But Moses kept on going, came to Pharaoh, told him, God said, let my people go. And every time Moses told Pharaoh what God said, God hardened Pharaoh's heart because God was teaching Moses how to persevere. God was teaching him not to be hindered by suffering. God was teaching him how to have faith in spite of what it looks like. And if you keep on reading the story in the next chapter, eventually you will see that God did what God said God would do, because it's in the next chapter of your life that God will fulfill his word. It's in the next chapter of your life that God will bring you out. Don't stay stuck in the verse you're in right now, but if you can hold on to the next chapter, God will do what he said he would do. And because God did for Moses and the Israelites exactly what he said he would do, it enabled the writer of Hebrews to pick up his pen in the 11th chapter of Hebrews and say, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And verse 29 says, it was by faith that the people of Israel went through the Red Sea as if they were on dry ground. But when the Egyptians tried to come after them, the text says they were all drowned. I'm getting ready to get out of here, y'all, because I feel my help now. Been teaching y'all the last few sermons, but I believe I'll preach my way out of this one, because if you're going to keep on building, you got to have faith. Can I get a witness here? I heard Jesus say, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Can I testify for our people in Black History Month? Faith brought our people through what we've been through, and I'm looking for somebody who can say my faith is gonna help me keep on building, because faith kept me from losing my mind. Faith helped me to get over depression. Faith healed my body. Faith got me accepted into college. Faith helped me graduate. Faith put me in a good job. Faith helped me raise my children. Faith kept my marriage together. Faith helped me fix my finances. I came to tell somebody we serve a God who has given us faith. So you ought to be encouraged and walk with your head held high and put a smile on your face, put a praise on your lips, and thank God that you can build by faith. If the truth be told, some of us should have quit a long time ago. Some of us should have given up a long time ago. Some of us should have went crazy a long time ago. But faith kept us going. Faith kept us believing. Faith kept us trusting. And if you know that it was faith that sustained you, you ought to clap your hands right now. If you know that it was faith that brought you out of the storm, you ought to clap your hands right now. If you know that it was faith that put your feet on solid ground, give God praise right now. I want every believer, every black believer that knows that God brought you out of the darkness and into his marvelous light to help me praise him right now. I know you've been through a lot. I know you still may be suffering. I know that people may still be trying to oppress you, but don't stay stuck in that verse right there, but just hold on, because in the next chapter, God's giving you prosperity. In the next chapter, God's giving you favor. In the next chapter, God's going to lift you up out of where you've been and carry you into your next level. I see you in the future, and you look much better than you do right now. Somebody ought to help me this morning. Somebody ought to be a witness and testify that if God did it for the Israelites, then God can do it for me and my husband, for me and my wife, for me and my children, for me and my co-workers, for me and my church family. I need somebody to wave your hand right now if you know that you're going to keep on building. Build, my brother. Build, my sister. The next generation is counting on you to build. The next generation is counting on you to have perseverance. Don't worry about suffering and build by faith. If you have faith this morning, go on and testify on the screen and say, I'm going to keep on building. Type it on the screen right now. I'm going to keep on building until I build what God would have for me to build. Listen, God put you on this earth in the midst of all of the inconsistencies and all of the things that we face as a people. God still put you here to build something. And when the day comes that you and I are no longer here, those that are left behind ought to be able to see, touch, feel, and experience whatever it is God put us on this earth to build. So I don't care who you are, my brother or my sister. Type it on the screen. Say it out of your mouth. Declare it with me. Keep on building. God bless you. Before we go, my brother or my sister, if you do not know Jesus Christ, now is the moment that you can come to know him. All you have to do is confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, and you will be saved. Listen, I want you to stay connected with us. We want to stay connected with you. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Check us out on our website. Call us, email us, whatever you got to do, go ahead and do it. We want to stay connected. Until next week, God bless you. We'll see you next time right here at the Lighthouse.